A police raid in New Jersey in the summer of 1996 revealed a fascinating photographic record of rapper Biggie Smalls' personal life. And many of those photos appear here in this episode for the first time ever. And it came about when Biggie and a group of friends that included fellow artist Lil Kim and close friend Lil Cease were arrested at Biggie's home in Teaneck, New Jersey for a number of alleged crimes that included everything from drug possession to illegal firearms charges, and gave the world one of the most famous mugshots in history. And here for the first time ever, I will also reveal the case files for this arrest that may have presented serious issues for Biggie's future had he not been tragically killed less than a year later. And it all started with an illegally parked car. On July 23, 1996, a police officer with the Teaneck Police Department responded to Biggie's apartment in a gated complex over ongoing issues with vehicles parked in a fire zone in front of the building. This time it was a BMW driven by someone visiting Biggie's place that brought the cop to his front door. And unfortunately for everyone at Biggie's home at the time, the officer smelled marijuana smoke when one of Big's friends answered the door. But the car was then moved, and it may have seemed like the issue was resolved. Except that cop then went back to his station and reported his observations to their Bureau of Narcotics. And it turned out the location was already on law enforcement's radar, not just because of the history of illegally parked vehicles, but due to a neighbor that had called the police before to complain that there was excessive vehicular traffic at all hours of the day and night, and that she was concerned about illegal activities taking place at the residence, and that other neighbors were terrified to call the police due to fear of retaliation. And the local cops were also already familiar with Biggie's criminal history, referring to him as a convicted drug felon for an arrest in North Carolina, and referencing his arrests in New York for assault with intent to cause physical injury, the criminal possession of a weapon, and criminal mischief. So it seems like this officer smelling marijuana smoke was the straw that broke the camel's back and finally gave them cause to get a warrant for the residence. So the same day that the marijuana smoke was reported by this cop, a detective lieutenant with the department's Bureau of Narcotics obtained a search warrant, and that very evening he held a briefing with 17 officers and detectives and investigators, along with a canine named Rex. And at 8:49 p.m. that evening, those cops executed the search warrant at Biggie's home. And Biggie answered the door himself, and inside they found another half dozen people just hanging out, including his close friend Lil Cease and fellow recording artist Lil Kim. And a search of the place found multiple containers of suspected marijuana, ammunition, a Tech-9 submachine gun with defaced serial numbers, loaded magazines, a bag containing 2 9mm handguns, and a .380 Beretta and a Smith & Wesson .22 caliber, a crossbow with arrows, and $559 in cash. They also recovered 56 photographs and noted that 2 of them showed men posing with handguns, and that Lil Cease appeared to be one of those men, and that the guns seemed to be the .22 and .380 handguns found in the home. Many of these photos collected by police at Biggie's home have never been seen before. And I love the obligatory gangster movie posters on Biggie's bedroom walls. Of course, Biggie got his moniker from a 70s gangster movie.
Well, if it ain't Shuffle Along Mac and his old-time donkey.
Biggie Smalls.
Biggie and all 6 of his friends were subsequently arrested, and then a 7th friend, another roommate of Biggie's named Sweef Jackson, better known as C-Gutta, showed up later and was brought in for questioning. And during questioning, Biggie claimed the home was his and that his roommates included Lil Cease, C. Gutta, and Damian Butler, another close friend of his who would go on to witness Biggie's murder in Los Angeles, along with Lil Cease, just 8 months later, but who at this time was incarcerated in New York for a parole violation. Biggie admitted to smoking marijuana on a regular basis with the other members of the Junior Mafia, his backup group, but he denied any knowledge of the guns that were seized, but said that C. Gutta may know about the Tech 9, quote, because he was the type of person that would point a gun at someone for a joke, and had, quote, done this on several occasions using a silver chrome gun. Interestingly, C. Gutta had just been involved in an infamous incident with Biggie and Puffy just a few months prior when Tupac and Suge Knight and their security confronted Bad Boy's entourage outside the Soul Train Music Awards in Los Angeles, and C. Gutta had allegedly pulled a weapon. Biggie also told police that he had seen his friend/incarcerated roommate Damian Butler, quote, in possession of a gun in his residence. And the finger pointing didn't stop there. C. Gutta copped to some of the marijuana and ammo, but when asked about the weapons, supposedly replied, well, it's Biggie's house, he should know what's in his house. Lil Kim denied smoking weed and told police the boys do what they do. But C stayed strong and only admitted that it was him in the photo holding the guns. And he wouldn't even reveal who'd taken the photo. In the end, Biggie caught the most charges, probably because it was his residence, getting hit with possession of a large-capacity magazine, possession of an assault firearm, possession of a defaced firearm, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and marijuana possession. Lil Cease was hit with some firearm and marijuana charges, and the rest of the group, including Lil Kim, got charged with possession of marijuana under 50 grams. So pretty minor drug charges for the rest of them. Further investigation later revealed that one of the guns seized was stolen, and police suggested that Lil Cease should get an additional charge for receiving stolen property. And the .22 revolver was also determined to have been stolen. The following morning, Biggie's attorney called the detective lieutenant on the case and requested that there be no further questioning, and announced that he would also be representing everyone else in the group with Biggie. Biggie's bail was set at $150,000, Lil Cease's was set at $50,000, and the others in the group were simply released. And Lil Kim's fierce mugshot from this arrest has become one of the most iconic images in hip-hop history and is still sold on t-shirts and posters. This case came up again a few months later, in January of 1997, just a couple months before Biggie's murder, when an anonymous caller called the NYPD to make the far-fetched claim that Biggie Smalls and someone named Damien, which police apparently believed was possibly a reference to Biggie's close friend Damian Butler, quote, were going to bring an explosive device to the Teaneck Police Department. Of course, neither of them were ever charged with being potential bombers, and the accusation is kind of amusing. But an internal report on this unsubstantiated tip referenced the fact that Wallace and Butler have prior felony arrests for weapons possession. And a few years later, this case got headlines for Lil Kim when it was revealed that an arrest warrant had actually been issued for her after she failed to appear in court for this case, supposedly because she thought it had been resolved, but it was easily handled when $350 bail was posted on her behalf. But the more serious weapons charges against Biggie, when added to his previous criminal history, very well might have sent him to prison. But we will never know, because he tragically died before this case went to court.